So was it even in your mind to try to fight the case?
Yeah, but I was at this point I was already conferring with dudes, so-called lawyers in prison, like fools that knew the law, and I told them the whole case, and they were just like, "Yo, bro, it's gonna be a tough one to beat, cause like you're in your car, they have your fucking license plate, you know what I mean? Like, only thing you could do is plead insanity, and that's what I tried, and then that didn't work because they knew I wasn't crazy, like I didn't really play the part right, you know."
So what did that feel like, taking that deal?
That shit felt like my world caved in, bro. When the judge struck his gavel, bro, I started crying in the courtroom.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I remember it was so bad, like I was crying mostly out of anger and like disbelief that this shit just happened to me. You know what I mean? I was angry at the system. I was angry at my lawyer. I was even a little angry at my family for not being able to help me out. You know?
What do you mean help you out?
Because we were kind of poor, like we couldn't afford a fucking real lawyer. So the system works only if you pour money back into it will you get any kind of deal. It's all commerce. It's no more common law anymore. This shit's all commerce. Every count they get you on has a financial statement backing it, like a receipt, you know, similar to the commercial goods you buy on the internet or whatever.
Yeah, they say real criminals never go to jail or get time.
Yeah, it's true. I saw the crookedest shit while I was inside. But anyway, so yeah, it was a feeling of disbelief and just this intense feeling of disappointment in the legal system. The fact that I saw this freaking female officer show up to court with a makeup job saying that I hit her, bro, I knew this shit was just rigged and crooked, you know? So the fact that I fell victim to that crooked system that I already kind of knew about from reading all these books, but witnessing it firsthand was just like incredible to me. And I didn't know, I just started crying, bro. I was fucking pissed. I was so like crazy. The bailiff came over to me and started consulting me. He's like, "It's gonna be all right, bro. Just keep your head up."
What do you say to those people that are like, you should have got more time?
I think those people are speaking out of ignorance. I don't think they understand exactly how the system works and what it's like to be in there doing time. Like, there's no real rehabilitation happening in there, you know? I think it's like a 70% recidivism rate, which means that people that do their time get out and come right back in. So there's no rehabilitation in there, first off. So doing more time isn't really solving or creating better individuals or rehabilitating them. It's just making them worse. So I would say to those people, instead of recommending more time, I would say...
Yeah, but in these people's eyes, it's not to rehabilitate you. It's just to stow you away for as long as they can. They don't care if you're rehabilitated.
Yeah, well, these people don't understand that we've done these things, these crimes, because we're all fucking traumatized individuals just trying to make sense of reality, you know? So there's deeper levels to it, you know, and this could easily be their kids. You know, these same people saying this shit probably have a nephew or somebody else that is about to be in the same shoes that I was in, you know? So they're speaking out of ignorance, mainly. I don't think they get the levels of why we did what we did, or they don't get that we grew up in a situation that pretty much put us on that path. Or maybe they do, like you said, maybe they're the ones that are just like supporting that school to fucking prison pipeline, you know?
So, yeah, but there's people that maybe grew up under the same circumstances that go on to be doctors.
Yeah, it's rare though.
Athletes.
Right, yeah, it happens. Not saying that growing up in that situation is automatic cause for you to go down that pipeline, but it's certainly rigged in that direction. I mean, you could just view it statistically, you know? Like, how many of us actually make something out of ourselves growing up in this situation? Most of us end up in jail or dead or in a gang or addicted to drugs, you know? So, and they know this. Social scientists know this, you know. They make it look like they're making an effort to try to change this, but they're not offering enough resources. They have the money to build centers and really try to like change the way shit is, but
Yeah, it's one of the biggest businesses. So if you
yeah,
look
it's
at
the
it from
back.
an economic,
Yeah, prison, the prison, the military industrial complex and prison is the backbone of the American economy. So it's like without that, you know.
and pharmaceuticals.
And pharmaceuticals, yeah. But it's big business, man. I mean, yeah, I could break down how it works, but like, yeah, dude, prison is huge business, especially in California.
So then, after life is shot out of you after your sentence, what's the next phase?
Now I'm getting ready to catch the chain and to hit prison and really start doing my time. So, which I was excited for because I was ready to get the hell out of county jail. I was over with it, you know. So they sent me to I started off in first they sent you to reception. So I went to Wasco reception, which is like Kern County area, and then from there they assess you, they assess your case, and they sent me to Susanville level 3. I started my time, and then at Susanville level 3 I caught a weapons case, which boosted my points, and then they threw me on the 180 high desert level 4 yard. So when I got to Susanville level 3, some shit went down where a couple Samoans jumped this one Nicaraguan dude, and now we had to do something about it. So we all got strapped up, and like the next week we were gonna do something about it. We were gonna play it cool for a little bit, and then we were gonna surprise attack these fools. So we all got strapped up, and in that week they did cell searches, and they found weapons in our cell. So they took me and my cellie to the hole and gave us a bunch of, like, they referred it to the courts, but luckily the court dropped it because I already had 2 strikes. So I'm already thinking like, fuck, this is gonna be my 3rd strike. You know, I'm done. I'm gonna do life in here. So when I first hit the pen, I'm thinking to myself, like, I gotta be really careful now that I got these 2 strikes. I'm not gonna try to do anything that'll get me in trouble. So I had to figure out how to work around the politics and really be smart. And politic, really, it's all about how you politic with people and the moves you make and how you present yourself and all this stuff. You know what I mean? So I had to be really smart and figure out what's the best way for me to survive these 12 years without getting another strike. You know, this is my approach to prison now. But as life goes, the first fucking month I'm in there, I have to have a weapon in my cell. You know, so that was the start of my level 4 voyage. After that, they sent me to level 4.
How is that different from the level 3?
That shit's way crazier there. I mean, they sent me to a 180 yard, which means the buildings are designed in a way where the tower guard could shoot into your cell. So it's the highest security prisons in California, 180. So it's meant for people that it's like the prison within the prison. You know what I mean? Almost, in a sense, because everybody there is doing life or is known to be, or is there because they just stabbed somebody or their points are high from doing some shit. So everybody there is active in a certain capacity, and everybody there is doing a lot of time, if not life, mostly lifers. So it's a different energy that's there compared to being on like a level 3, or I never was on level 2, so I don't know, but it's like lighter and lighter as you go down levels. But level 4, everything is very respect based, and everything is very heavy, so nobody makes dumbass moves. You know, anything that happens is very serious. So everybody's very respectful to one another, and there's some serious rules in place to avoid major conflicts, because if conflicts breaks out, it's gonna be super heavy. You know what I mean? Like, there's a no hands policy. Everything's with knives. Like, if something's gonna be settled, it's, you know. So that's just to put this in order, because now you're living with lifers that's their home. You know what I mean? So it's like there's these rules in order to not make shit even crazier and cause conflicts for dumbass shit. You know what I mean? So the rules are a lot heavier. Everything has a heavier weight to it.
How long were you there?
High Desert, I did 4 years at High Desert. And then my points finally dropped. And then they sent me to Soledad. To level 3 in Soledad. It's in like Salinas Valley area. And I lasted there probably like a year before I ended back on the 4-yard again. And they sent me to
What happened? Why were you sent back?
There was a couple riots that went down, and they moved certain people around, and they had like video and all this stuff. So anybody that they felt was involved in the riot, they were just sending them to the 4-yard and boosting their points up and all this stuff. So a lot of us ended up on the 4-yard right there. From High Desert, level 4, down to level 3 to Soledad for like a year or so, and then back to another level 4 in Salinas Valley. So most of my time I did it on the 4-yard. Did a couple years there at Salinas Valley, and then they shipped me to, they started shipping us all out to Oklahoma, to different states, because California's prisons they were so overpopulated, they were overflowing, and you know, a lot of people were putting pressure on them, so they started opening these different for-profit corporate prisons in different states and shipping us out to them.
What was your experience in Oklahoma?
Oklahoma was cool in a sense where they gave us all these like perks to be out there, because technically it was against the law for them to have us so far, because it created a hardship on our families and ourselves, because now we're so separated from our families. Visits are crazy. Like, you can't get a visit in Oklahoma. Like, if you do, your family fucking really loves you, because like flying out to Oklahoma to visit some fool, like, you know what I mean? They knew that was technically against the law, like, so they would give us all these perks so we wouldn't complain. So we had cable, we had cable TV, like we had a bunch of channels. They let us have Xboxes and PlayStations in our cell. You could order them. So it was cool in that sense, where they let us have these little perks, but it sucked because we were so far away from home and we didn't get any visits. And and some of the craziest riots happened out there in Oklahoma, actually. Like, one of the craziest riots I've ever seen, like, or been at, happened in Oklahoma, where they needed to call in the National Guard to stop it because it was so hard to control.
What took place in that incident?
It was everybody against the blacks, bro, which is fucked up. and it started like this. There was some Asian cat that I think he cut in line to be with his homies or something, or vice versa. Anyway, he cut in line, right? And one of the blacks took offense, right? And they started arguing, and the black dude swung at him. The Asian dude kind of ducked and parried out of the way, so the black dude ended up hitting a Southsider, and everything just erupted from there. So now, the Southsiders all kicked off, and the fact that the Asians started, all the others and the Asians kicked off against the blacks too, and automatically when the Southsiders jump, usually the whites jump behind them. So now it's everybody and the paisas, you know, all the Latinos, they all jump for the Latinos. So it's like kind of a thing that happens. And so now everybody's on the blacks. So it kicks off in a certain chow hall. Then word spreads to a different one. And now the whole prison is going off, bro. Like different locations. And it got to a point where Southsiders got control of the tower guards. Of the tower, like where you can open certain cell doors. They went up in there. Because the staff never dealt with anything like that. They weren't used to dealing with California inmates. They didn't know how crazy we were. So they didn't have real, like in California, the COs have little mini 14s to defuse situations with real bullets and shit. But over there, they just had these rubber guns and shit they really couldn't really do anything with. So they felt threatened, and instead of trying to break, they all kind of left their posts. So now they left it open, and now the Southsiders have a hold of the tower of the controls. So now they're opening cells where the blacks lived, and they're sending in 3 dudes to go in there and stab up whoever's in that cell. So now they're going cell by cell. So imagine being a black dude in a cell, and you're watching the other cells open up one by one and seeing hitters go in there and stab up, you know? It must have been a scary moment for them, you know? What I heard was that they were strapping themselves up with magazines and just getting prepared to get stabbed up. So that shit was crazy, man. There was a lot of shit that happened. One dude got sodomized. Yeah, they had to call in the National Guard to stop it. It was wild, bro. There's clips of it on YouTube.
So how long were you in Oklahoma for?
Probably 3 years. I was in 3 years.
And then you go back to Cali?
Yeah. So I went to Oklahoma 2010, and I was set to parole in 2013. So they were I was finishing out my time. So I did almost 3 years in Oklahoma, and then they sent me to Arizona. Just as kind of a midway between Oklahoma and back to Cali. So I did another 6 months in Arizona, and then they sent me back to California, to Riverside. But I forgot to tell you, in Oklahoma, I actually I ended up macking up one of the guards, and I fell in love with her, bro. Legit. It's a whole love story. I was writing poetry to her every day, drawing her pictures, and she was 20 years older than me.
You're telling me you're legitly in love with her, or it was a survival mechanism to maybe get some perks and.
Well, that too, but I legit fell in love with her, bro, because it was the first woman to pay attention to me, and freaking I hadn't had contact or even attention from a woman in, what was that? That would already been 9 years down. So it was the first woman to give me any action, any form of attention and affection in 9 years. So it was being a virgin and meeting your first crush, right? And like having an interaction with them. So I immediately like fell into this weird puppy love, if that makes any sense. Like legit, like thinking like I'm gonna get out and marry her. And she's 20 years older than me. 19 years older than me. She was this old cowgirl from Texas. And I remember, dude, she had these like glacier blue eyes, like black hair. I thought she was the sexiest thing in sight. But now that I look back, I'm like, God damn, bro, that wasn't that great. You know what I mean? Obviously, like, you know, comparatively.
Yeah, but if you're just looking at men all day,
yeah,
of course
she was beautiful. Like, I was like, oh my God, she's a goddess. Like, she's so sexy. But she was an older 46. I was 27. She was 46. She wasn't in the best shape. You know what I mean? She had big old knockers, but that was it. And like nice eyes. You know? But I was legit in love, bro. Like, 100%. And my celly would give me shit, bro. He's like, you're a fucking sucker. What a bitch. But I didn't care. Like, I was like, I had my mind set on it. She got me a couple of cell phones. Like, she brought me plants. You know, my cell was decked out. Like, other CEOs knew because she was already, like, a counselor. Like, she was like, she had the level beyond a sergeant, you know, because she had been there forever. So, like, nobody would say shit.
You were banging her?
No. I had a chance to, but my higher intelligence kicked in and I decided not to. Because I was like, all right, so one time I was helping her get packages out the back to help her distribute the packages. And things get a little hot and heavy and I started buttoning her shirt. And I could tell that she's like super scared. And she starts shaking and I get scared. I start getting all nervous. And then something hits me like, if somebody catches us right now, she's going to yell rape. You know, she's not going to give a fuck about me. You know, my intelligence finally kicked in, even though I was like in love. Like my survival kicked in. I was like, nah, this is a bad move. Don't do it. If anybody catches you, you're done. She's going to say you were raping her and you're fucking like completely done. I'm like, you're so close, bro. You only have a few more years to go. Stop. And something clicked in me and I just immediately, I dropped it. And it was the hardest shit I had to do. I had like blue balls for like 2 weeks. After you know? Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, that happened there. It was cool. And then, so I did 3 years there. They sent me to Arizona for like 6 months and then sent me to back to Cali in 2013. And I ended up paroling in like October 2013.
First time hitting the parole board? You parole?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you know, I didn't have to see a board.
Oh.
Because I didn't have life. So only like lifers really see the board. Or if you're like some kind of weird circumstance where you're like recommended to get out early or something. But I had to do my full sentence because I got into shit in there, you know. I could have done 85% of it, but I ended up doing like most of it.
So out of all the facilities you hit, what was the craziest thing you say you saw in there?
I think, I mean, I seen people get killed in there. I've seen people get thrown off of tiers wrapped in a blanket. I think one of the craziest ones, because it was probably one of the first major stabbings I saw in there that still sticks to me to this day, is it was the Northerners. I was in High Desert and I don't know, for some reason I was paying attention to the whole thing. Like, even though I didn't know something was going to happen there, these guys were doing burpees. It was 3 of them. they were doing burpees for a long time, bro. They were going at it like the whole time we were on yard, and I was just watching, kind of impressed at their stamina. I think that's probably what I was watching. And the guy in the middle seemed a little slower than the other two. Like he wasn't in as good a shape as them. And I remember they had kind of stopped. The guy in the middle seemed a little winded. And then I remember one of the guys tackles the dude, slides him a little bit like under the table. They by the table they were working at, and they both kind of just jump on him.
The guy in the middle.
The guy in the middle that was out of shape. They got him super winded. Now they both on him, kind of laying on top of him, like kind of jujitsu style. They're both like wrapped up on either side of him, and he's laying face down. And they're just stabbing him for the longest time, bro. Like nobody's seeing him, and I'm watching this shit. I'm just like trying to count how many times they're each hitting him. Until finally somebody sees, one of the cops sees or something, and then they must have hit him like over 50 times each, bro. Like it looked like they were getting tired of how much they were hitting him. And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, dude, this was about to die, you know? And I remember that was one of them where I was. He actually popped up and started fighting, but he was just like all the blood was like gushing out of him. And I remember thinking to myself like, damn, this place is crazy, because that was the first major stabbing I saw there. And I remember that one stuck in my head, because I was like, oh shit. Like your own people get you like that, like real dirty status and high, like, you know what I mean? It was real, like they thought it out, you know? They're like, we're gonna get him tired, we're gonna tuck him under this table, and we're just gonna stab him up until we get caught, you know? And I was just like, damn, this shit is crazy. Another crazy one was these Armenian fools. They were Southsiders. They ran with the ABs, I think they're called, Armenian boys, or is it, no, what is it, I don't know, whatever it's called. Anyway, one of the dudes was super in shape, right? He was the guy that was the target. And I remember you used to see this fool in the yard doing burpees all the time, and just like super ripped, super in shape. He would run every day. He'd just do the whole circuit, bars, burpees, everything. And I remember these two dudes came out to the yard one day, and they're just like walking around out of nowhere. They start booking him, and they're stabbing the shit out of him. And the tower guard yells, "Get down!" He starts firing. So those guys, they throw their knives, right? They hit him a gang of times, and he was leaking all crazy. And but the whole time he was fighting back, but they were on him pretty tough. And they tired themselves out. The tower guard yelled, "Everybody get down." We all got down. They were right next to me, bro. Like literally I got blood on my shirt from the fool, because that's how close it happened to me. And I remember taking my shirt off and kind of just like putting it to the side so they wouldn't try to like think I was a part of it. And then anyway, after everybody gets down, he jumps right back up, all full of holes. He runs to where the fools threw their knives, grabs one of them, if not both of them. I think it might have grabbed both of them actually, or one of them. Anyway, he runs back and he starts stabbing them up with it.
Wow.
And they're winded, bro. They were kind of out of shape, and this fool was like just going, hitting both of them, and now they're running from him. It was the craziest shit I ever seen, bro. It was so surreal, bro. I'm like, holy shit. It's like he got like a second wind, or like, you know, the adrenaline kicks in. Plus he was in super good shape. They were like done. They were like, they gave it all they had. That was it, you know? They did not expect that fool to pop up like that. So they looked like a deer in headlights, bro. Like they just didn't know. They were so helpless because they were just completely gassed, and he was just booking both of them.
That's wild.
Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, like, all right, fucking being in shape could save your life in here. And after that, I started hitting it hard. Started doing burpees fucking every day and like just really taking it serious, you know?
So what were you doing with most of your time in there? Did you even feel you had a chance at a PL? Were you working out? You said you got into working out after you witnessed that, but
The first few years, I was just, trying to figure it out. I still couldn't really grasp. It was super hard, so I was still doing drugs.
oh, you're still using it.
I was still using, bro, for the first few years. You know, shit was expensive, but, you know, we'd be in there fucking chasing the dragon off a little, like, foil in our cell and shit. Not, like, every day, you know what I mean? Obviously, because that would be insane. Like, nobody has that kind of money, but, like, you know, it was around, so I was still getting high every now and then.
Why would you want to even be high in that environment?
It sucked. I remember thinking to myself, like, this is, like, it only made sense when we were on lockdown, you know? Because we'd just be in our cell. I'd got to draw all tweaked out or whatever the fuck it was, you know? Or just be in my cell looking at magazines. But when it was yard time, I remember being out there, like almost panicking because it's, like, a tough environment. Like, you don't want to be out there all fucking twacked out, you know what I mean? But on a few circumstances I was, and it was just like, all right, something needs to change. You know, this is horrible. But anyway, so I did that a few years, not every day, but I did that. I wasn't in the best mental state yet until like a few years went by and I got settled in and I figured it out. And I would play soccer. I would work out. Anytime I didn't get too much yard time on the 4-yard because something always went down. But when I did, I would always you'd either see me playing soccer or you'd catch me playing basketball or at the bars working out. Either one of those. I was always active. I never like stayed at the table playing cards and shit like that. Or like, I was always trying to play soccer. Mainly played soccer, bro. Like anytime I was on the yard, I was playing soccer. And when I was in my cell, I was doing a lot of reading. I read so many fucking books. Like, you know, everything from like I try to educate myself, all the shit that I missed out on in high school. And so I would read like classics like Homer, the Iliad, Odyssey, you know, Hemingway, like shit that would like help me increase my language skills, my reading skills. And my mom would send me books. She was going to college, so she was like super studious and sending me stuff. So I was trying to educate myself, like after a certain time. And then later on, I started educating myself in a different way. Like, I started diving into spirituality and stuff like that. So, but yeah, man, most of the time, I had a TV in my cell because I was always doing cell living. So, you know what we do in there is we fucking try to get into shows and watch sports. That's what I did. I was a hardcore gambler for a minute. I ran all the books. You know, I knew everything about sports. I knew who was pitching every day. Whatever season it was, I was like listening to all the stats. I would listen to ESPN radio on my headphones and listen to all the stats. And I was running, that's how I supported myself a lot of time. I was making a lot of like money gambling. And drawing, all kinds of stuff.
So those were your two hustles in there? Gambling and...
Drawing, in the beginning, those were my two hustles. Then drawing became my main hustle. I would draw cards for everybody. Whenever somebody needed to send a birthday card, they would hit me up. Like, hey, draw me a birthday card for my niece or for my daughter, you know? Or do a portrait of my girl, like whatever it was, you know? That was my main hustle. And then gambling was just like an easy side hustle. Because, you know, after a while, your family and your friends get tired of sending you money, or it's like tough to keep up with everybody, you know? So you got to find something to support yourself.
So you did have financial support from your friends and family?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. Not too crazy. Like, my family would send me whatever they could, you know? But sometimes I started feeling guilty of asking them for so much money and packages and stuff. I knew it was tough. So I tried to do as much as I could on my own, you know, make money to buy my own commissary and stuff like that.
And what would you say the main key component that gave you hope being in that environment where it might seem kind of destitute and where there's no hope? You know what I mean? What kept you going that there is hope?
Well, I mean, there's several layers to that. At first, my hope was just like, I started getting in shape and started like in my mid-20s, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to be so old when I get out. I started figuring it out because when I first went in there, I was like, oh shit, I'm 18, or when I get out, I'm going to be 30. This shit's like, I'm going to be an old man. You know what I mean? But once I started coming to terms with, actually, it's not so bad being this age. I still feel like myself. That was one sense of hope. So that kind of kept me going. And then the other one was I was getting in shape and I was just thinking of all the possibilities. I started empowering myself with knowledge and just becoming a better version of myself. And that gave me hope, you know? And then ultimately what gave me the most hope was just like my finding a spiritual practice and like discovering truths for myself that really helped me out and gave me this like intense sense of freedom even while I was in jail, you know?
So going to that, how did you discover this intense sense of freedom being in an environment where there's literally no freedom?
So I grew up, well, my name is Krishna Das, which means, I explained it earlier, I grew up in the Hare Krishna philosophy, so I got in touch with this group called the ISKCON Prison Ministry, which is basically Krishna conscious people that serve as pen pals for people that are incarcerated. And they started sending me books. So I got in touch with them through a Christian chaplain because I was trying to figure out a way this is one thing we didn't talk about. The whole time I've been vegetarian my whole life, right? So I'm in prison now, and now I'm like starving and fucking exchanging my meat for other people's green beans and vegetables and just like eating what I can, right? So they wouldn't give me a religious vegetarian diet because they didn't recognize Hare Krishna as a religion. So I had to get in touch with this organization, which then helped me fight my case. And they ended up giving me a vegetarian diet based on the religion. But by doing so, by getting in touch with them, they started serving as pen pals and they started giving me books. And they started just being like really channels of support, you know? And I started really diving into the philosophy and spirituality and started putting it into practice in my cell. I would do these sound meditations in my cell where I would sing certain mantras and I would chant on my beads, you know, a certain amount of mantras a day and do all these different devotional acts and along with the reading. It's a whole practice called Bhakti Yoga, which basically it serves to unlock all the dirt from your heart so that you can kind of like tap in with your higher self and with that like divine love that's there and have a relationship with it. So it was kind of like I explained it to people, it's kind of like having this little like portal that you can channel and go to a different dimension through. So it was like a little escape tunnel that I built for myself in prison, but it was really just like tapping in And I learned how to do that through this practice. So it was the craziest shit because at first everybody thought I was crazy. I would be singing in my cell these crazy devotional songs that people thought were very abstract and like foreign to them, right? And I would make drum beats to sing to on like a box. And at first my cellie probably hated me for it because, you know, I'm like making all this noise in the cell. But after he saw me doing this on a constant basis and he saw the transformation, he firsthand witnessed it. Like we could talk to him and he'll tell you. He saw the transformation I went through in those last 3 years when I was in Oklahoma, that when I really dove into my practice. And I was able to achieve this peace of mind and this sense of freedom where I didn't give a damn. Like, I used to pray for protection every day. Like every night when I went to sleep, I was like, please don't let me get into a riot and catch a third strike, or please, you know, don't let me get stabbed, or let me survive another day in here. I'm almost out. I went from praying for that to please don't let me forget this sense of freedom that I have or how I achieved it. Don't let me forget this practice that I'm at right now. Please don't ever let me forget this feeling. You know, I don't care what happens to me. Just don't let me forget how I got in touch with this, and don't let me take it for granted. I went from praying for protection to that because I was in such a state of harmony and peace that I didn't really care what happened. Like I had never felt that free my whole life, and it's weird because now I'm in a fucking prison cell, but I was in touch with something so beyond this world that I didn't give a damn about anything else, you know?
Yeah, you're literally tapped into another universe, even though you're living in this physical world of hell.
Exactly.
You're in an alternate universe at the same time.
That's a great way to put it. That's exactly what it is.
And most people can't ever experience that feeling living on the outside.
Right.
Some people never gain that.
No,
experience.
and I haven't felt it since.
Really?
I'm trying to. Like, that's why I'm still practicing, because I want to get back to that. But the reason I was able to channel it so much is because I didn't have any other distractions. It was just like me and my cell doing this practice sincerely for months on end or years on end, right? Till I really like achieved a certain level of being able to tap in, right, without the distractions. And like you said, it's like you're in touch with this other universe. It's like I describe it to people like this because I don't know another way to describe it. It's like, you know, Peter Pan, like when the kids go to Neverland or whatever, and they're just like flying around and everything's so fun. They like leave their rooms and they go fly out the window and they're just like in a whole nother world. That's literally how it was, bro. And like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, I was so happy and peaceful. But like you said, you know, a lot of people believe that, you hear this theory where there's no such thing as a God in the sky, and like the kingdom of heaven is within, right? And there's truth to that, because you could tap into it even in this life. And it's just, all it is achieving a certain level of consciousness, you know? But we're just we have so many layers of fucking dirt and different impressions from shit we've seen in this life and in previous lives, and just different shit that we've accumulated that we don't know that consciousness is achievable or even exists within us already. Right? So it's like, once you get a taste of that, you're just like, oh shit, this is what they're talking about when the kingdom of God lives within us already. Like, you don't need to like search for like a bearded man in the skies, you know what I mean? It's there already. So I got a taste of that, and like, you don't really, I think knowledge works like this. Like you're trapped in the same, unless you get a higher taste for something, you're never gonna try to search for something higher. You know what I mean? And that's why a lot of people stay trapped in the same habits and the same ways of living, because they haven't gotten a higher taste. They think that what they're doing is the all in all. Like they're comfortable with the way they're living. Because like for me, for example, there was one point where I was just so chill. Even before I started the spiritual practice, I was just living in prison. I was going out playing soccer. I would come back in, read. I had my routine down, to the point where like, this is my life. I'm just living it. I almost forgot that I was in prison. And a lot of people in there, they've been in there so long, they don't even know what it feels like to be free. So now they're in their own little freedom, right? But they're really in prison, but they don't know it. So similarly, a lot of us are in prison out here, living in our same ways, because we haven't got a higher taste of different levels of freedom and different levels of consciousness, you know? So yeah, that practice just really opened my eyes to consciousness levels and how to achieve different different levels of consciousness. And it really prepared me for paroling. Like honestly, if I didn't do that, I probably my wheels probably would have spun when I got out. But I was able to hit the ground running when I paroled. I got a job right away. I had my own car and my own place in like the first 6 months, you know? Like I stayed with my sister for like 6 months. And then after that, I found my own spot, I had my own car, I was working, got a girl, just like, I haven't looked back since. Never once violated parole, you know? So there's a lot of value in seeking these spiritual practices. Not even if you don't necessarily achieve or get that taste that I did, there's a discipline that comes from it that like grounds you. You know what I mean? And a lot of cats in there search for stuff like that. Like I was hanging out with a lot of like-minded individuals. Like I was hanging out with these Mason dudes that were like practicing different forms of spirituality. These Rastas, Muslim dudes. We were all on that link. Like we're trying to search for something higher. You know? And that's why you see in a lot of these movies where, like, I think it was like Friday or was it Friday or Boys in the Hood, where they have the fool that just gets out of prison and he's like, now he's like Muslim or like, and he's like kicking game to all the kids in the neighborhood. They're like, get that fool out of here. He's just like nonstop on that like Black Power movement, like that Afrocentric, because fools like start like discovering their own history and tapping in and learning about themselves. So it's like this weird thing that could go either way. It's like you either become a worse criminal, which most people do because it's designed for you to become worse, or the very few that do search for the other and achieve something, they come out even better, you know? So I feel like I was lucky enough to be a part of that side of the group, even though at one point I felt like giving up and just saying fuck it. And like a lot of dudes do that. They're just like, fuck it, I'm in here, let's ride, you know? And they just end up becoming worse and just catching cases in there and just doing life. Started off, some dudes in there, like I met fools that literally had 6 years to do, bro. They were on like their 4th year or something and ended up catching life, and it was just like in there forever now. You know, because they pulled the leg, like they had to hit somebody and the dude died and now they got life, you know? So, shit's a trip, bro. Saw like little white boys go in there, just like regular kids, like skater kids. Fucking 2 years later, I see them with swastikas on their head and just like raising their hand at any chance they got to go like put in some work, you know? So it's like, it's a weird dynamic. It's like you could either go that way or it'll push you to look up, because it's like either extreme. Like you're already at your lowest, so you could either stay in that lowest or you could look at the opposite polar direction, you know?
So when you get out, did you have a good support network with your friends and family that helped you?
Yeah, bro, I was lucky to have have that. You know what? Even inside, bro, I had like certain friends that would write to me and like send me money here and there, and my family was always there for me, even though they didn't really visit. I got probably like 3 or 4 visits the whole 12 years, just because I was always so far away. They always had me up north or like Oklahoma. But when I got out, I had a good set of friends that would help me out, and family was always there for me, and it was a key component to me, like staying like good, you know. Yeah, and to this day, I still have a good support system that constantly looks out for me and checks in on me and stuff. So that's super important.
What would you say? Because you have some very good artistic skills and good musical skills, be it either painting or flowing. You know what I mean? I don't know if you make beats too, but
Yeah, I do. I make beats.
But so, did you hone in on those practices too, as not just your spirituality while you were in there?
Yeah, man. So I attribute my sanity to my spirituality and to hip hop. Like both of those intertwined. And it's funny because my spirituality is based on sound meditation. It's based on sound. So we believe that sounds inform your consciousness. Your consciousness kind of creates your reality. So whatever you're listening to has an effect on your consciousness. So that's why we do a lot of like these chants and these vibrational practices, you know? So that made sense along with the hip hop, because I was always into like real hip hop, positive, like conscious hip hop. Not always, you know, because I'm a big fan of.
What do you mean when you say real? Is it?
I know. Saying that sounds fucking like whatever, but what I mean by that is that hip hop originally started to try to uplift, right? So there was always a message, and so a lot of the stuff that I listen to, there's a message, and it's like trying to uplift. That's the kind of shit I like, you know. And yeah, I get down with all the other shit too, because it's different forms of it. But I mainly try to listen to stuff that there's a message and it makes me think, you know? That's why I really like lyricism and stuff like that. Because if it's making you think and it's making you up your game instead of degrading your consciousness, you know what I mean? I prefer to listen to that. So hip hop, bro, I was writing rhymes in there. I wrote thousands of rhymes in there. I created a whole album. I was battling cats in there. I was doing all kinds of stuff with the music, but I really honed my craft in there. Like my writing skills got really good in prison. And we would have like these little sessions where, even though I wasn't supposed to do it, you know, I would like, because most of the guys that were rapping were black in there again, but that, once again, that's who I was, so I naturally would go back to that. But by that time, everybody was cool. I had been down for a long time, and nobody said shit to me, you know, and I wasn't doing it all blatantly like I was in the county. Yeah, the hip hop kept my mind occupied, and I literally would write. That was one of my, you know how you asked me earlier, what did you do? Like, I forgot to tell you, like, I would write rhymes. Like, I have stacks, literally stacks of papers of rhymes at the house right now that are just there, that I haven't released or like really, but they're there, and it's the whole process. I could kind of, I look back on them sometimes to kind of just see the evolution of my writing and almost like a journal, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, and there's this whole hip hop story I could tell you about in there that turned out to be crazy, and you know, out here.
What do you mean a hip hop story in there?
Like how I met this one cat in there through hip hop, and we revived and we became like brothers in there. And he was black, but he was on a lyrical level that I respected. And one day, this was in Soledad in 2009. I'm working out in my cell bumping Gangstar. I had the double disc CD. I was bumping Above the Clouds loud because I figured out a way to like connect my Discman to my TV and bump it out the speaker real loud. It like amplified it. And he hears it, right? So one day I'm walking the yard and I got my Discman and I'm holding the Gangstar double disc CD. And he noticed, he's like, yo, that's you bumping that shit in there? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what you know about this? You know what I mean? Anyway, we started talking hip hop, and he's an MC. I'm an MC. We spit rhymes. Next thing you know, we click. We start writing songs together, and we become real close. And he connects me with a bunch of underground cats in LA when I got out. And we start doing shows together. We're putting out an album. And it turns out this motherfucker was in there for some shady ass shit. He was in there for sexual assault, which is not supposed to happen because he's not supposed to be on the main line for that. You know what I mean? But somehow or other, he was black, and not to diminish any of their politics, but sometimes they're a little light on like checking fools' paperwork. You know what I mean? So, like for example, the Hispanics, like you have to show your paperwork everywhere you go. There's no like ifs and buts around it. For other cars, not so much. Anyway, so he made it through on the main line, and he was in there for sexual assault. And I had no idea. And I'm like vibing with this fool. I'm sharing food. I'm breaking a lot of rules because I got close to this dude, right? And then a couple years pass after we're both out and we're doing music. I'm rocking shows. He goes back to prison a couple times, like for a quick 6 months, and he's telling me, oh, it's just a violation, bro. I'm violated. I'm just like, all right, man, you gotta get your shit together. We got music to make, right? I'm thinking nothing of it. And then about, I'd say 2018, 2018, he gets locked up again. And I had no idea, but my homie calls me. He's like, yo, did you hear about this? His name was Joe. He's like, yo, you hear about Joe? And I'm like, nah, what happened? They're like, yo, check this out. And he sent me a newspaper article online. And they had labeled this fool as a rapist. Supposedly he got caught for several rapes, or like attempted rapes. I guess he was like drugging girls or doing some crazy shit, picking them up at bus stops and doing all this crazy shit. And supposedly that's what he was in for, those times that he told me he was like violating parole. You know what I mean? And somehow or other he managed to get out of it. So it was like a habitual thing. And like he had a problem with that. Like he legit was like a fucking predator. So and I had no idea. So this is some fool that I grew close with in prison, that I even had over my pad when I got out because we were doing hip hop music together. And like he connected me with a lot of producers and all kinds of stuff. And we were doing shows together, and he was dope. He was actually skilled.
So some people would say, how did you not know this man was doing all this stuff, or that he had ever caught that charge? There's some people that'll look at that and say, how did you not know?
Yeah.
You had no idea.
I would say, yeah, I would probably ask the same question if I were you. But nobody knew. Nobody, like all his homies that grew up with him, nobody knew what he was in for. The only one that knew, that I later found out and she told me, was his girl, his wife. And I have no, because they have a daughter together. She's the one that told me, yeah, man, he told me he would just flush his paperwork everywhere he went. And that's how like he kept it under wraps. As soon as he got somewhere, like he would like crumble it up and flush it down the toilet. And I'm like,
it's insane.
yeah.
No, but you said after you got out.
Oh, after I got out.
And he went back a couple times and violated. He had violated for those reasons?
Yeah. Nobody knew why he was back in there. Like, I wasn't hanging out with him, like, every day to know what he was doing. We would just hang out at the studio and do you know, shit like that. Random meetings, like, to do music. So I didn't know what he was doing on his free time, you know? He only did it a couple times, is what I'm saying. It's not like he went out every night and, like, did some crazy shit. At least that I knew of, right? Like,
yeah, but you said he violated for reasons related to
after I checked the shit online, because after that I did a full fucking scope on him, and I noticed that those dates that he was gone was for a separate charge of sexual assault. So this shit, when I found this shit out, bro, I was devastated. It's imagine finding out like one of your best friends, bro, is a fucking predator and you had no idea about it. Like, I'm like pissed, so torn, and also like mad that he manipulated, because now I've had him at my house around my girl, you know? And a lot of my friends shared the same sentiment. They're like, that motherfucker, bro. I had him over here with my niece one time and left them in the room together. You know, like shit like that. Like, fools were angry and I was pissed off, and I was just like mad at myself for not knowing, or I don't know necessarily like at that, because I mean, how could I have known? Like, he didn't display any of those fucking like tendencies when we were together. You know, he was just a normal cat.
So they had let him out 2 times. This is the thing that always amazes me. Well, not veering off the topic, but staying on it somewhat. Why do you think it is that, you know, these people can rape people, they could do sexual assaults, and they literally get no time, they get off, whereas, you know what I mean, you might do some shit like, you might vandalize something, you might go to jail for dope, and you get these egregious sentences that don't compute to the crime, while these people are over here raping people and almost killing their soul, and they're literally getting no time. Why do you think that disparity exists?
Yeah, that shit baffled my mind too. I think what it has to do with is those charges those cases are harder to prove. You know, because a lot of the time the victims don't want to come out and admit it because they're ashamed. You know, but even when it does, like, there was that dude in Stanford, right? Recently, a few years ago, that on the swim team, right? You remember that case that did all that shit to the girls, but that's why I was going. Right? Because he had money and he was a well-established dude and he wasn't black or a minority. He was able to get out of it with like probation involved, like crazy. Like, and he had all these sexual cases and they all came forward and said he did it. But since he was of high status and his dad was like high status too.
Yeah, but you just said this guy is black. And he was let out twice, so
right.
It doesn't matter. He didn't. Did your friend have money?
No. But what I'm saying, those ones where he didn't get fully prosecuted on, or they couldn't like give him a gang of time on, was the girls didn't come forward because they were so ashamed. So it was just more of like what was it? He was there fighting his case that whole time. He didn't get sentenced. You know, they couldn't fully prove it, so they didn't they let him go, or they dropped it down to like some kind of other case.
Yeah, but even in cases where they can prove it, they basically have a blood or semen, you know what I mean, where they can prove this rape or assault. they still get light sentences sometimes, and you're just like, this doesn't make sense out here.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think also is, I don't know, man. I have a feeling like since those cases don't necessarily deal with the, how could I say, the monopoly they got going on, which is the drugs and the violence, and they don't necessarily involve that rotating door of like, how could I say, like killing each other kind of a thing, or like causing harm upon one another. Now it's like you're causing harm on a girl, you know, or it's not necessarily like a violent drug crime or gang related crime, that it doesn't really feed into the system as much, if that makes any sense. You see where I'm going with that?
Nah, because not most
I'm just theorizing. I don't know if that's what it is. I'm just trying to guess.
Because
like,
most drug related crimes are nonviolent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And you get a gang of time for that shit, like, you know.
Yeah, but there's people doing time literally because someone said they said something about plotting a deal. There's people sitting in jail on conspiracy charges.
Yeah.
Like that, which is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man.
Where this person could rape someone and he only gets 3 years or 5 years.
I think because a lot of the fools making the laws are fucking pedophiles and shit like that, maybe.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking the same thing. Maybe they treat it so low because they know that they'll be in that, they could very easily be in that situation one day.
Right. Because, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of these fools are sickos, dude. You've already seen what's been happening in Hollywood and, like, in the power structures. Mm-hmm. So maybe they don't punish it as hard, you know?
Because they know they might be in
that same situation, yeah. But even then, they do, like, so now they gave oh boy, like, 100 and something years. Or like 82 years or something.
The dude you used to rap with.
Yeah. So they do treat it, like, it's not as common and, like, you know what I mean? But I think he did it so much and they finally caught on to him, like, oh, you motherfucker, now we got you. So they gave him 82 years.
Yeah, it's very interesting because you could say someone, all right, he terrorized someone. Mm-hmm. But someone could say, you terrorize these people, they might never be the same. They might have trauma. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's different ways. Someone could be totally traumatized after being robbed. I think sometimes...
totally, bro. Yeah, it's traumatizing as fuck.
I think sometimes we overlook these incidents that happen to us and we think it's part of being a man and we don't know how it might have formed us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These instances where, like you said, you've been jacked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think either in LA, you know what I mean, you've been a victim of some form of, if you were growing up in the streets, you've been a victim of some type of either violence or trauma-based. Something was induced on you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, hell yeah.
There's always someone that's tougher than you out here, you know?
For sure.
So
yeah, for sure.
I think it goes underlooked, you know what I mean?
It totally goes underlooked.
But it's very interesting how there's not a gauge for like crime, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't fit it.
Yeah, there's.
I'm going off topic here, but.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I mean, these are all relevant subjects.
Yeah, so that's a crazy story you had with that dude.
Yeah, bro. So it's like, I don't even know what to say, man. It's just like this weird, I guess these weird this weird darkness that follows me somehow. You know what I mean? That's what I attribute it to, because like, I don't know.
Yeah, but you just said you can't. You speak. Yeah, no, you're listening to this conscious music because you don't want to manifest that.
Yeah.
By you thinking there's some dark thing following you, it's kind of like you're speaking into existence.
Yeah, no, that makes sense too. But what I'm saying is now, like, I look back at certain things that have happened to me as a child, leading up to prison and being in prison, and then that situation, and that what I told you earlier on how before I got locked up, I had this like almost like seance type experience where I like dealt with some spirits. I noticed like a pattern of like this like darkness over me as a kid, and then even having that experience with those spirits, to later being in prison and having that same spirit that I didn't really tell you the whole story about revisit me while I was on my bunk twice. And then this shit with old boy, I don't know, man. It was like some kind of weird. I know it sounds a little wild now, but like,
you're saying you felt the same energy in all these circumstances.
Yeah, except not necessarily with the hip hop guy, but he is like, think about the shit that he did. That shit is really dark too. You know what I mean? But the spirit thing, I did feel that same energy from. So basically what had happened was, like, before I got locked up, I was at my homegirl's house, and one of my friends, his name is David Eyesore, we call him. He pointed out that he saw some like spirit go into a room. And so I went in there and tried to get the spirit out by chanting, because I was already in touch with like these mantras and stuff. So I thought that I could do these mantras and get the spirit out of there. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, right? I didn't know if it was a good thing, a bad thing. I didn't know what the hell I was dealing with.
This is during your childhood?
This is weeks before I got locked up.
And because everyone's going to ask this. And you guys are not high on anything?
I wasn't high then, no.
And he's not high on anything?
No, but I was the only one that was really doing crazy shit. Like, my other homies weren't doing math or none of that shit.
Yeah, but no one's on weed.
Yeah, I think they might have been smoking weed and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, but someone could easily watching this
and
equate
that to... Right, yeah, all right, but it wasn't just him. It was a gang of people, right? They witnessed this whole thing. They saw me go in the room. He saw the thing go in the room. My friend Arjuna was with me, Sheriff, at that time. He was from the CSM crew too. And he also was born into this Krishna conscious movement. So he had a spiritual name, and he knew about chanting and stuff. So I dragged him in there with me, and I'm in the room, and I'm seeing, you know that movie Predator, where you can't really see him, but you just see like the vapors of where he's at? I'm seeing that kind of shit in the room, like moving from corner to corner. And then it gets close to me and it takes my breath, and I can't speak. And I'm just like paralyzed. And I'm like trying to chant, and like, then it leaves me, and then it does the same thing to Arjuna, and he starts crying, and he runs out of the room and leaves me in there by myself. And I stay chanting, and then I go out to try to get him, because I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this by myself. So I get him back in there, and we both keep chanting, and finally the thing leaves, and the homie David, who saw it go in there, he saw it leave. Right? That was just that experience that I had with something. The first experience that I had was something beyond our normal reality, metaphysical, you might call it, right? And that's when I was like, oh shit, there's something that exists. The spirit world is for real. Like, I just encountered it. And that's when I made a promise after that experience that I was just gonna like be straight. I'm not gonna do no more dumb shit. Like, all right, I took it as like a sign. Like, all right, look, I'm showing you this world that exists beyond your normal matter, right? So I took that as like a sign that something else exists, something higher exists, something that I don't know about. So I made a promise to my higher power from then on that I wasn't gonna do drugs or anything. And then the first day I did do those drugs is when I did those robberies, and then I got locked up. So then you asked me, that same energy visited me. So that same dark energy that I felt in that room, that same paralysis that I had when it came over me, came to me on my bunk twice in separate years. And I remember laying there on my bunk, wide awake. And it's nighttime, right? Like, just laying there. And I remember just coming over me again, like if I was in that room again. And it was just like here I am again. Like, you know what I mean? I'm back, kind of a thing. And I'm like doing the same thing, trying to chant, and it finally leaves. And that happened twice to me in prison. And then when I got out, I felt that same energy again from this lady. She was like a homeless lady, and she was asking me for change. We were at the 99-cent store in Lincoln Heights, and my wife was like, "Don't talk to her. Like, don't mess with her. Just leave her alone. Like, don't." But I'm like, she's asking me for change. I'm gonna see if I got some, you know. And I try to find change, and I don't find any. And she gets mad. She's like, "Come on, I thought you said it." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I tried." But she's like upset now, right? So then Carla's, my wife's like, "No, I told you not to talk to her." So we walk into the 99-cent store, and she follows us in there. And we're walking through the aisles, doing whatever, buying whatever we need. And she's like stalking me, bro. The homeless lady's like watching me hiding, going through, like literally stalking me. And my wife's like, "See, I told you not to talk to her." She's like stalking you now. So we finally get our stuff and we're checking out. And I'm like at the front of the register, like getting all stuff and putting it into a bag. And that homeless lady comes out. She stands like right in front of the entrance, like inside the store. And she starts yelling at me. She looks me dead in my eyes and she's like, "Get out, get out." And I look into her eyes, bro, and I swear to God, I felt like that same energy I felt when dealing with those spirits. And then I've tried to make sense of it all because this shit sounds so wild, right?
No, it doesn't.
But I've tried to make sense of it all, and I'm like, you know what? I remember one time feeling that same shit when I was a kid. We were sleeping on the floor. I was living in Fontana, like I was like 6 or something like that. I was living with my dad. This is when like my siblings would live separately. They were with me and we were sleeping on the floor, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night and like seeing this like figure dance around and feeling that same energy. And I had forgotten about it because it had been so long, but now that I trace back to it, I'm like, all right, it started then, and then it happened before I got locked up, and then those 3 times after that. So like I've always felt like there's like some weird shit, you know what I mean? Some kind of link I had to something that I had to like get rid of or something like that. I don't know what it is. Yeah. But
I think everyone goes through that. But
yeah.
I think just some people can't see it or feel it as much as maybe people like me and you can.
Yeah, some people are hyper sensitive to that kind of shit. You know?
They're just numb. They're not in tune with it, so they don't see it for what it is.
Right.
Because I feel what you're saying on feeling that negative energy. You know what I mean? Or sometimes that energy manifests itself through people.
Right.
And their energy towards you.
Yeah.
Which it could get very weird. It's almost like the person's possessed.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
so
where
like
did this
that.
come from?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I felt with that lady. I'm like, oh shit, that's really familiar. And then I looked into her eyes and I just like, I felt that presence again. You know what I mean? I was just like, oh shit. And I was spooked. I was just like, damn, this is crazy. You know? But this was like years ago, and I haven't really. This was like over 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah, life is very deep and mysterious.
For sure.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of unexplained.
Yeah,
things.
in our intelligence, our brains, they don't have too much capacity to fully grasp everything. You know what I mean? We try to make sense of it however we can, but there's so much. Like we could only see, we could only hear certain vibrations, right? Certain frequencies. Like there's certain low frequencies that we can't hear and certain high frequencies. We could only see certain spectrums of color. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
There's more spectrums of colors that exist, but we could only, our minds could only compute a certain amount. So for us to try to grasp everything and make sense of it all is crazy. Like there's so much that we don't know,
Yeah, because we're compounded through society upon this material fake one.
Yeah.
That's just bombarding
Yeah.
our mental waves.
It's like I was saying, we're just like bombarded with all these impressions that have created this programming in our head that block us from like being able to get in touch with these other realities. But yeah, man. So that's how I felt like with that whole situation. It was like, is this another fucking form of weird darkness trying to get close to me? And like, I don't know. Good thing is like that's no longer there anymore, you know what I mean? Now I'm just like cruise control. I feel like I had to go through all that shit. Like we all have to go through shit, right? To become better versions of ourselves and understand certain things.
And how did you get into doing your first show after?
After when I got out?
Yes.
Like hip hop show?
Yeah.
Through that dude. Through Joe. He was in touch with like, cause he was dope, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like he was a piece of shit, obviously. Like knowing what I know now, obviously he's a fucking, like I would never talk to him ever again or any of that shit, be associated with him. But he did have skill, and he was so he was well respected in the underground scene. Like he was doing shit with Delicious Vinyl and like with these other producers. So he put me in touch with certain people and got me like in there, and I would do like my first ever like show was like Delicious Vinyl. I got on the mic. It wasn't like a full show, but that was my first time performing in front of somebody, or in front of people, and like actually manifesting my dreams of rhyming in front of people and being an MC and all that stuff that I had in prison. Because in prison, I'm like, I can't wait to get out and like spit some rhymes, because I wrote so many and I've really honed my craft. I want to share it with people, So he was that gateway to get me in there. And now I actually maintained some of those contacts. Like it wasn't all negative, you know what I mean? So you haven't put out an album with all that material yet? I put out one, and it was with the select few songs that I felt fit well. So I put out one, and then I've put out a couple singles ever since, but there's so much stuff I need to do that I haven't, as far as with the music stuff. And like, I don't know if I want to release all that stuff I wrote, because I feel like I'm at a different level now with my artistry, that I might one day and just like put it out as like a kind of just like a memoir kind of a thing.
What do you mean? You've lost love for?
No, I haven't lost love, but now I'm writing new stuff, and like my form of writing and the stuff I'm into is different, So like, although all that was great training for what I, for honing my craft, I look back at a lot of the stuff I wrote, and I'm just like, I feel like it's not necessarily song worthy, you know what I mean? Even though some of it's really tight, but I'm just like, now that I'm at a more mature level in my MC game, I'm like, that sounds a little cheesy. or I was still very immature in my writing skills then, or like
No, you're progressing in your maturity.
right. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know if I want to put that out, but it's still great to have and see. And I might put it out one day as like I said, like a fun like memoir, like look at my old shit that I wrote in prison, kind of thing. But
Yeah, it's funny when you look back on, like, I might find like an old essay I did for school, like back in 8th grade,
Yeah.
9th grade, and now I read it and I'm like, oh, what was I thinking? It sounds like a little kid, like, woo.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's how I felt. Like some of those shits that I wrote. But it's weird because some of the stuff I even put on my album, right, was stuff that I wrote early in my like writing career. So it was like hit and miss, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the songs, so my album that I have out, that I put out in 2015 when I finally stopped being lazy and actually put it out, is songs, some of the songs I wrote when I was 19 on my first year in prison. Some of the songs I wrote when I was in my mid-20s. Some of the songs I wrote like a little bit before I got out. So it's like different levels of songs. But those are the ones that made the cut. The other ones just like, So, I don't know. I think it was just like hit and miss. Sometimes you do a dope piece even when you're kind of like, you're not that good, but it comes out tight, So you just put it out because it's art.
What do you hope to accomplish through your rapping, hip hop?
As of recent, I've always wanted to be able to uplift or inspire people, whether it's just to write or spread a message or like think higher or something. But now that I've matured in my penmanship and also my spirituality, I like to kind of blend the two and throw gems of how you can better yourself through tapping into those levels of consciousness I was talking about earlier. So I like to like sprinkle that into my lyrics, because I feel like it's key for everybody to at least experiment with, right? Because if you experiment with it and it works for you, because not everything works for everybody. Everybody's at a different level and certain things will work for certain people. But if you experiment with some stuff and you really take it to the lab and try it out and it works for you, why not, right? And it transforms you and it helps you, because it has for me. So why not share my experience through the music and share the stuff that has helped me achieve a certain level.
So through hip hop, you want to better people's lives.
Yeah.
And bring them to a higher consciousness.
Yeah, that's what I want to do, because I feel like a lot of early hip hop was intended for that. Whether it was not necessarily a spiritual consciousness, although a lot of it is very spiritual if you listen to the lyrics. But it originally started to like bring awareness to the struggle, so it was uplifting in one way or another, People were voicing their opinions on political matters or stuff that they were dealing with that needed to shine light upon that nobody knew about, So it was always informative in one way or another.